Let me ask you something. What if I told you that someone could generate $5,500 a month in retirement income from just $800,000? That's not just a math problem, it's a psychological one. Because when you're staring at that number, you're not just calculating returns. You're wrestling with fear, greed, and the gnawing anxiety of outliving your money. And the way this 63-year-old is doing it. It's a masterclass in balancing risk, reward, and the brutal reality of inflation. Here's the thing, most people think about retirement income like it's a static equation. But this story isn't about numbers, it's about choices. The $800,000 portfolio isn't just a pile of assets. It's a strategic bet on 3 different approaches to income generation. And each one tells a different story about what retirees are willing to sacrifice. Because let's face it, if you want to live off dividends, you're either giving up growth, taking on risk, or both. And that's where the real drama lies. Take the conservative approach first. This guy's using SCHD, which gives around 3.5% yield. But here's the kicker. To generate $66,000 a year, he'd need over $1.8 million. That's not just a math problem, it's a wake-up call. Because if you're relying on a 3.5% yield, you're essentially betting that the stock market will never rise. And that's a dangerous assumption, when the average retiree lives 25+ years. It's like building a house on sand and hoping the tide doesn't come in. And yet, some people still choose this path, because it feels safe. But safety comes with a cost. You're sacrificing compounding growth, which is the real engine of wealth over time. Then there's the moderate tier, which blends JEPI and realty income. Now, JEPI is interesting, because it's using covered calls, a strategy that's like playing chess with options. You're essentially selling the right to buy stocks at a set price, which gives you extra income. But here's the catch. Covered calls work best when the market doesn't crash. If the stock plummets, you lose the upside. And that's a risk retirees might not realize they're taking. Meanwhile, realty income is the old-school dividend aristocrat, with 670 consecutive monthly payments. But even that isn't foolproof. If interest rates spike or the economy tanks, those dividends could vanish. And yet, people flock to it because it feels stable. But stability in a changing world. That's a myth we all need to confront. Now, the aggressive tier is where the rubber meets the road. At 8.25%, that $800,000 portfolio generates exactly $66,000 a year. But here's the brutal truth, this isn't about growth. It's about spending down the principal. You're trading tomorrow's potential for today's cash flow. And that's a gamble. Because if the market crashes, or if inflation eats away at your purchasing power, you're left with nothing. And yet, this is what many retirees do, because they're terrified of running out of money. It's a paradox. The more secure you want to feel, the more you risk losing everything. What makes this whole thing fascinating is the hidden math behind the numbers. A 3.5% yield growing 8% annually would double the income in 9 years. But a flat 12% yield, it doesn't grow, it decays. And that's the real danger. Retirees who chase high yields today might find themselves stuck with shrinking income in a decade. Because inflation isn't a one-time event, it's a slow, grinding force that eats away at buying power. And if you're not growing your income, you're actually losing ground. That's why the conservative approach, while safe, is a trap. It gives you peace of mind now, but leaves you vulnerable later. And let's talk about taxes. This is where most people get tripped up. JEPI's option premiums are taxed as ordinary income, which is brutal near retirement. Realty income's REIT distributions have their own quirks. And SCHD's qualified dividends are better, but not perfect. So the tax hit can completely reshape your strategy. I've seen people ignore this and end up with a lower after-tax yield than they expected. It's like building a house without a roof. No matter how strong the walls are, you're exposed to the elements. So what's the takeaway? It's not just about picking the right investments. It's about understanding what you're sacrificing. If your actual expenses are closer to $55,000, you don't need as much capital. But if you're chasing a specific number, you might be setting yourself up for a fall. And more importantly, you need to model how your portfolio grows over time. Because the best income strategy isn't the one with the highest yield, it's the one that survives the next 20 years. And that means balancing growth, income, and risk in a way that feels uncomfortable, but necessary. The real question isn't just how to generate income in retirement. It's how to survive the inevitable changes that come with it. Because no matter how smart your math is, life has a way of throwing curveballs. And the only way to prepare is to think beyond the numbers, and confront the truth that no strategy is perfect. But that's the game, isn't it? It's not about finding the perfect answer. It's about making the best choice you can with the information you have. And that, my friends, is the real art of retirement planning.